Hey, do you teach yoga? Have you ever trained to lead yoga classes, to be a yoga therapist? Have you ever owned a yoga studio? Maybe even just wondered what it was like for the women and men up there in front of the room on their mats, leading you through endless Surya Namaskars, down dogs, and pranayamas galore? Well, these are their stories, and mine. I'm Rebecca Sebastian, a 20-year yoga teacher, 10-year yoga therapist, yoga studio owner, and co-founder of a yoga-focused nonprofit. I've done a lot in the yoga world over the last 20 years, pretty much everything except had a water cooler. You know, a place to share stories, talk about struggles, successes, and find other people who do the same thing that I do. Welcome to Working in Yoga, a podcast and substitute water cooler for yoga folks to connect and build community, to share our unique profession, our challenges, and our journeys with the world. Hey friends, welcome to Working in Yoga. This week on the podcast, I have one of my favorite yoga folks, Ava Taylor, talking about all things your yoga business. Here's what I want to tell you about Ava. She is one of the people who shaped our industry as a whole. She's the founder of Yama Talent, a talent agency for yoga professionals that she founded in 2012. She booked folks at yoga conferences full-time all over the world right up until COVID hit us. She also had a hand in expanding Lululemon's reach at the very beginning, which brought a lot of revenue into our industry. And as a reminder, our industry is predicted to value at around $250 billion with a B at the end of 2025. That is a lot of money in classes, pants, mats, trainings, memberships, and more. And Ava was one of the pioneers of this industry. And now she has written a book that you can buy that shares her wisdom about building a yoga business with you. She has put all the shit in there. I have read her book. It is so good. How to do workshops, how to market, how to run retreats and trainings, how to manage your finances. And you all know that I gush about a spreadsheet, and she provides downloadable resources for folks to help them manage their business. You are going to want to hear our chat. I know you're going to love it. Before we begin, though, if you could do me a true favor and subscribe and follow my podcast from wherever you're listening. That helps me get the word out to more people that they should join us around the water cooler to talk shop about our experiences as yoga professionals. Remember, sharing information with each other is key to lifting us all up. And the more we talk to each other, the more we can advocate for the profession that we're all dreaming of. And if sharing info is your thing, after you subscribe to my podcast, I would love it if you would head to the show notes and subscribe to my newsletter. I share all kinds of tidbits of info that I find with you weekly, including industry data, cool offerings that y'all might like. And in last week's newsletter, I shared about a great yoga nonprofit that I recently found out about in the Miami area. Remember that conversation I had with Jeevana Heyman a few weeks ago? We talked about how nonprofits are a sign of a healthy ecosystem where we have the money to thrive ourselves and to share with others. So head to my newsletter to stay up to date. Finally, I'm going to tell you about my other job. I usually say this podcast is sponsored by Sunlight Streams, which it is, but every so often I feel like it's worth mentioning that is me. That is my work. I run a robust yoga therapy practice within my yoga studio, and my specialty is self-care for folks who need to dig deeply into caring for themselves as much as they care for others. So if that's you, someone who prioritizes everyone else, let me encourage you to sign up for one or all of my self-care webinars happening this January 6th and 7th of 2024. We are talking about self-care as it relates to the Panchamaya Kosha system, journaling, Sankalpa, and environmental care. Head to those show notes to get the link. Now, I've talked long enough, and you really need to listen to this interview that I have with the one and only Ava Taylor. So let's get to it. Hey friends, welcome to Working in Yoga. Okay, so if you are a reader of my newsletter, you're going to know the name that I'm about to introduce today because when she did her pre-launch for the book drop, I did this whole blurb about how you should go get her book. So ladies and gentlemen, Ava Taylor. Ava, come tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for having me, Rebecca, and what's up to the community. My name is Ava Taylor, and I've been working oh my gosh, I think we're going on 15 years now of, sort of blood, sweat, and tears, breathing the yoga industry, and really working to support yoga teachers in creating thriving businesses for themselves. So I've worked with studios, thousands of yoga teachers around the globe, studios around the globe, brands around the globe. I started before there was Instagram, so it's like this amazing sort of career span, which is captured in the book of our industry really kind of growing and maturing and developing. And so one of the things that I realized right away as I was looking for a way to serve the practice, right? That's why I started my business, which is called Yama Talent, Yoga Artist Management Agency. But I wanted there to be more yoga in the world. And so I was like, well, how am I going to help there be more yoga in the world? And when I realized that the yoga businesses were like running on a hope and a prayer.
Yeah.
I was like, we've got to do better. We have to do better, because if the teachers can't become sustainable and viable, have viable incomes, if the studios can't stay in operation, then
Yes.
guess what, right? We lose the teachings. So that was my why, and that was how I got started. So yeah, I mean, it's been the most tremendous gift. Entrepreneurship is not easy. The highs and the lows are real, and it's gotten me out of bed every single day since I got clarity on what my call was and said yes to it. So I'm really honored to be here and to be celebrating the book baby. And I just think it's such a moment that we're in now, post COVID, and
Yeah.
rebuilding and reimagining what our industry is going to look like. So this book was sort of like my guiding light in a way during the heaviest and darkest days of the pandemic. Like, I was working on it and like, okay, we're not there yet, but we're gonna be there. I actually been pushed back the publication date, because I was like, it can't come out too soon, because I want everything to be so relevant for the world that we're really in right now. And now we're here,
Now we're here.
partnered up, and we're doing things together. So thank you for having me.
I am so like I really want to talk about so much in this book, partially because it's amazing to meet another person whose brain works like mine, and that becomes really fun. Like, y'all, this book. Like before we even started recording, I was like, Ava, you just wrote all the shit in the book. Like people are selling $5,000 masterminds that you could spend $40 on buying Ava's book and get the entire mastermind in this book. She covers events, she covers merch. There is an entire chapter on how to teach online, in like not acting like it's some sort of like redheaded stepchild, for a better sense of the word. Like, it is a way we can make money. It is all in this book, and there are spreadsheets. Oh my god, I love you so much, Ava.
I'm gonna give you a hug.
I know. I know.
I
Oh my god.
I did a talk last week, and I quote, and I was like, I think spreadsheets are sexy. Like, I really do. I really do. I really
like
do.
I tell people all the time that I run spreadsheets for my mental health, because so many times your brain tells you garbage, like garbage. And then you go into a spreadsheet and you look at your numbers and you run your numbers and you're like, oh, my brain's just telling me garbage.
Telling you garbage.
Yes.
You would be it's I'm so glad that you brought that up, because a big, it's like, make a decision based on what's real, not what you think is happening.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Because there's two kinds of people. There are either people that think it's way better than it is, and then there's people that think it's way worse than it is.
Yeah.
Neither of which are good, right? You want to know what you're really dealing with, so you can adjust it, you can pivot, you can increase your business, you can cut your expenses. Like, the black and white is just so powerful. It's so powerful. So I'm so happy.
Like, the amount of times I've heard a yoga teacher say to me, oh, I did this thing, but I'm so disappointed about how it turned out, because their brain told them that they should be selling out a room of 100 people and they only got 10. And I'm like, wait, but did you make money? Did you gain experience? Like just because you built this idea that you're going to be some rock star, and you're not a rock star the first time you build a product and sell it. Like, run your numbers. Know how much money you made. Know how much experience you gained. It's like all in here. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Okay, so
and know what you're really getting into.
Yeah,
Like, know what you really get into. Like, one of the things that is a through line of the book is that it takes time. no one skips the groundwork, right? This is
Yeah.
like an 8 to 10 year and everyone's definition of a healthy income is different. Like you got to put the time in, and every teacher has had rooms of 4 people or 5 people, or things where they thought a bunch of folks were going to show up and they didn't, and it's part of it. And I don't know anybody that skipped it. I don't know anyone that skipped it. I know some people that did it fully virtually, right? But that still took 8 to 10 years to get to that point.
Yeah.
Even if it was online. There's an online, there's the spreadsheets are all online, right?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. You
Okay.
can download them.
Okay. Because I was like, I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want it to be so freaking useful. Like, I want it to be, so yeah.
This is the business book teacher trainings need to have. Like,
Yes.
if they're legitimate teacher trainings, if they're teacher trainings that are teaching you how to be an actual professional in the industry, which you and I both know not all teacher trainings operate that way. But if you are running a teacher training where your goal is to create better, more effective, more skillful, and more income oriented yoga teachers, you need this book in your training. It just tells you how, it tells everybody how to do it. Can we start though? Will you tell? So you're the founder of Yama Talent. And when I tell people what Yama Talent was, they're like, that was a thing. So tell everybody about Yama Talent and how you got started, which was not running people's yoga businesses, yes, necessarily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So we launched in 2015. Sorry, in 2010. We launched in 2010. And so I have I studied business and economics in school, and my first couple jobs out of university, sales and marketing, PR. So, it's just kind of advertising. I was just gaining experience, right? Putting lots of little acorns, it's like, I don't know what I'm doing all this for, but here I am gaining all this experience. And so I left my marketing job in 2007 to start working at Lululemon. And Lululemon at that time was a tiny company, 10 stores in Canada and 1 store in the United States. And then I started working in the second store, which was in North American headquarters. And my job was to do the R&D required for the company to go public and to roll out like 120 stores in about 18 months. So it was this really dynamic moment. I started at $10 an hour on folding pants. Like there was, the
Yeah.
corporate culture, like you had to work your way up, the whole thing. But I knew that I needed to, my grandmother had died recently. And so I really needed to keep myself safe and close to the practice. And I tell that story in the book of how yoga, my sort of like part-time yoga practice had already started working in me. And when I got to a really traumatic sort of crossroads in my life, like I made the decision to go to yoga instead of coping with some other tools and
Yeah.
things that we were predisposed to in my family. And so that was when I said, oh my God, it works. Like if it's helping me be a better person right now and make a better life choice for myself, that was my moment. Like, okay, I'm going to commit to this. So I leave my agency job, good income for a young woman. My dad was like, are you sure you want to do this? I said, yeah, I have a good feeling about this company. No one could pronounce the name. I mean, it's just insane. And so while I was doing my job there, I got to know the yoga community very well. And this is in Los Angeles, a really big territory that I had. So I was spending time with everybody practicing. And it's really funny now because most of those folks who I met during that time are all of the like big name teachers now. But we were just in class practicing, we were just in this like little kind of incubator for two things, what the career of a teacher would potentially become and also what the yoga industry would potentially become, but we didn't know it, right? We were just practicing, we were obsessed, we were on each other's couches. And so as I got to know them, I realized that two things: Lululemon was selling a lot of stretchy pants, millions of dollars of black stretchy pants, and that the teachers were struggling. And I was like, well, wait a second, because I'm in LA, so all my friends are actors, so, well, wait a minute, because usually, usually in an industry, sports, entertainment, music, if you're going to associate a brand, right, with talent, right, Yama Talent, you're paid for it. So what's happening here? And why are the teachers saying yes? why is this a good idea for them? Even though I was the one that was selling it to them, right? So it was very ironic that I had the awareness because I was literally selling it for them. And I was like, it's actually not good for your business. So who's helping you make good decisions for yourself?
Yeah.
And the answer came back, no one.
Yes.
And it was like a wormhole through the whole universe of yoga. I thought it was just my posse in Santa Monica that didn't have help. I didn't know it went all the way to the top, right? That no one had help. So that was where I had the idea. I go, oh, something's really missing in this space, because I had this other model around me living in Hollywood, basically. Oh, well, you can have a business manager helping you make business decisions for yourself, to help you negotiate, to help you strategize, to help you stay on top of your administrative tasks, right? You can have a team. Imagine that, right? So that was where I went, okay, I can take all these tools that I have, and this is how I can help there be more yoga in the world, by creating infrastructure in the space and helping be that team for folks who either are just not into it, right? Like you said, Rebecca, there's not a lot of us that love spreadsheets. It
Yeah.
just is what it is. So it's so part of it was, most yoga folks are artistic, right? Yoga artist management agency. Like, I was very clear on what the company was and how I look at the craft,
Yeah.
art of teaching yoga. So you can't do it all. I think you can do it all. And actually the book helps you do it all. But the point being that it's perfectly okay also to like build a team, or to own your own small business. So that was how it got started. And then I moved to New York in 2008, and I had saved up my life savings, and I was like, I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do this, and it was really scary. I went to Kripalu, actually, which is now where I work full time. And, I went to Kripalu, stayed in the dorm, my little backpack. And I was like, I was looking for an answer. I was like, is this a yes or a no? Am I going to like quit my job and lean into take my life savings and invest in this idea that I had had? I go to Kripalu for a couple days. I felt so good. I felt so whole. I said yes. So that was in 2010. And up until COVID, we worked with everyone from, Adidas to Z Living TV, literally thousands of teachers around the globe, helping them either, as their star was rising, right? Because the industry started to change, right? Yoga became that zeitgeist. It got super popular, and it's had a few, there was a bubble in the 90s, and then,
Yeah.
online yoga and social media. And I mean, we've done yoga reality shows. I've published like 7 or 8 books for my clients, like just the world's largest yoga classes, like everything that you can think of. We were like on the edge. We were there first. We were part of it. And it was all based on business, and it was not like, I got a lot of flack for it. There was an entire blog that was like dedicated, called the Babarazzi. I don't know if you remember this.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, Babarazzi would call me the devil. There was an article, why Yama Talent is worse for the yoga industry than John Friend's penis problems. And I quote,
No.
yeah, because that's how opposed people were to saying yoga and business in the same, like, this really means something, that this is actually okay now,
Yeah.
right? Because you couldn't even say yoga business when I started. So we've come a long way. We did a lot of work. COVID devastated the business. So we're, as for many of us, right, that's a common thread. I know I'm not the only one. So we're in an evolution, a reimagining phase ourselves right now. I'm trying to figure out what of it I want to hold on to, but we had an amazing run, and we did great work, and I've maintained almost all of the relationships I've had over the course of 15 years. And I learned a lot, and it's all in the book. So.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I feel like you're totally up for this conversation. I have this idea of yoga and business was not okay, and for a very long time, and I think honestly probably right until COVID, it was not okay. And now we've seen this sort of like, as the devastation sort of unleashed in our industry for through COVID. Like now people are like, oh wait, I do need to turn a profit. I do need to make money. But I feel like there's something to the fact that yoga was a space for women and folks of color to make their mark in an industry that was run wholly by us. Nearly like I find there's like a lot of patriarchy and white supremacy that's all wrapped up into whether or not we're allowed to have businesses. Did you see that? Did you feel like as a woman and that you saw that?
Of course. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that that's what it was,
Yeah.
right? I didn't know that that's what it was. I didn't know when I was in a yoga journal office, you know, 10 years ago, being told literally that there could not be a person of color on the cover until there were people of color in the classroom. And I was like, well, how do you think we make that happen?
Right.
Right? I didn't realize what that was. It was just like, okay, I'm going to have to work harder. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
keep kicking this door, right? Until it opens.
Yep.
Um, I've definitely spent, my fair share of, and this is like, Rebecca, it's interesting because part of it is such a growth. It's learnings, right? It's learning. So like as a woman entrepreneur, as a female business owner, some of this stuff is just par for the course,
Yep.
right? You have to, yeah, I was in meetings, with all 60-year-old Caucasian men,
Yeah.
and holding my own, but also like move out of the way, give me some space.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
earned my way here, right? So there's all of those things, but it's really interesting because I'm so grateful for it at the
Yeah.
same time that it was difficult. Because it's just like seasoning. It's seasoning and it's like it's giving you skills to go, okay, because now the world is different. It's
Yep.
not that everything is better now and that there's not still discrimination, right? But we have the most even playing field we've ever had as women of color, as women in business.
Yes.
There's a desire to support us. And so there's a desire for us to succeed. There's no longer just the like status quo, well, that's just how it is anymore. Now people are asking, well, why the F was it like that?
Yeah.
Why aren't there
Yeah.
more women in power, right? Why aren't there more people of color in leadership roles? Like, so for me, it's right now it's like now is the time, right, to just be
Yeah.
holding people accountable and to be going for it. Like we spoke.
Run.
Run. Exactly.
Run.
Run.
Get
That's
out.
exactly right.
Run. I'll I never forget. I tell people this all the time. Like, if you have a business and you want to generate income, you need to find a banker and take him out for coffee, like every month or two. And I have like my banker friend who is an old Caucasian guy who comes to coffee with me. And the first time he got me a grant with one email, I was like, is this what it's like for guys all the time?
Mm,
Like, I was like, is this what you all have been doing this whole time? Is just like going out to coffee and then getting revenue? Like, or
right.
like getting the,
Just throwing
yeah.
money around.
But what he said to me, he's like, I see that you had a hard time getting even a seat at the table, but that makes you better, quicker, faster than all the people you're competing with because you had to work harder just to get there in the beginning. While that's not fair, when the like you said, when the playing field is more even, run, don't
Run.
walk.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives me goosebumps. And I love that you have that kind of like, yeah, let me sit with somebody who this is their world. And,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many parallels. And this is what's interesting too with your yoga business is I pull from the business world. My original concept for the company was the music industry. That was the framework I was thinking about. But like, so many of the exercises, so many of the ways to go, the business is everywhere around you. And so all of those things are relevant to what's happening in your yoga business.
Yeah.
Right. And so to your point, like go right to the source, go to talk to the banker. Come on.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's so much out there. And so part of what I think like this moment is like helping folks kind of recalibrate, catch their breath, grieve for what was, get re-inspired, make a plan, and then
Yes.
run. And
And
then,
then run.
yeah,
Yeah. And like that gets me really excited because now I do think you're so right. Like your book is timed so perfectly because we have the space to run now. People have still even in 2023 people have said, oh my gosh, we are so devastated by COVID. I mean, in my town alone, 60% of studios closed
mm-hmm.
during COVID, which is, I think, fairly standard. I think we saw between 40 and 60% of studios closing during that time. But in 2021, Yoga 6 added 91 franchise spaces. In
Wow.
2021, like, you can't tell me that there's not opportunity there.
Right,
Of
right.
course there is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a really important dynamic, right? So there was a very, you know, real loss and shift and the landscape doesn't look the same anymore, right? I'm here in New York City, same thing, 60% for sure, if not more, right? I have folks who are in the space in Europe that they didn't get hit as hard because they have more of a
Yep.
safety net, right?
Yep.
Socially, it's just
Yep.
that's the way their countries run. Um, but here for us in the States, right? It was this like
Yeah.
lots of holes, lots of pieces falling down, and so it's but to your point of those pieces are still like someone said to me the other day, they go, oh, do you think yoga's dead? And I was like, absolutely. There was more to that, but I was like, absolutely not, absolutely not. But yoga's different. It's different right
Yes.
now, and it's going to reshape itself and continue to thrive. Like I
Yep.
have no doubt about that, right? And so someone like Y6 is finding holes,
Yeah.
filling holes, most likely filling holes, right? Where some of that loss occurred. And there's so much of that, right? And it's sort of this like bittersweet reality, but it's business. And in business, that's quite normal, right?
Yes.
And so, on all of us, I'll say, who are listening in your community, there are opportunities to seize, right?
Yep.
Sorry, I said it, right? There are opportunities to, oh, I'm going to say something else. There are opportunities to capitalize on based on the
Yeah.
loss, right? And
Yes.
and we need to be okay with seeing an opportunity or a hole or filling a need and going for it.
Yeah. One thing I referenced before we hit record, but this seems like a really good top point to bring up again, is that oftentimes we conflate this idea with income, generating income, finding opportunities, being creative with our business. We tend to conflate our fear of going forward in those opportunities with yoga philosophy. We
Mm.
hide behind the philosophical tenets of philosophy and say, oh, I shouldn't be trying to make money or I shouldn't be greedy in business. And I'm like, oh, I see you because I've been you. I've been that person, that judgy person who was like, oh my God, yoga's so spiritual. We can't make money on that. That was 100% my fear talking. It was not yoga philosophy talking. The frank truth is that good things happen when good people have more money. And so tell me, like, did you see what do you say to people when they're in that moment of like, oh, but I just teach yoga, I don't want money, I'm not that person.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they can survive, they can afford to not be that person, then more power to them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah,
hey, if you don't have to hustle, don't hustle. Like if so I think that it's such a and there and we talk in the book a lot about a hobby teacher
yeah,
versus a career teacher. So if
yeah,
you're a hobby teacher and you have an income coming from somewhere else or a spouse or savings, whatever that is, then great. Then be of service, right? Be of service. But for the rest of us who are committed to being of service, we also live in the real world. And so it's really just it's a practicality. It's a literal practicality.
yeah.
Um it's a literal practicality. And, I understand philosophically where the rub comes from,
Yeah.
and yes, non-attachment, and yes, the ego, all of the things, which I do think that you can run your business ethically, right? I do think you can run your business ethically and still believe. You don't have to change your beliefs, right? You can still run a marketing plan
Yeah.
egolessly. You can do it,
Yes.
right? There's the things,
Yes.
they are not mutually exclusive. So for me, it's really a practicality. Like, people just have to ask themselves, because you either can or you can't. You either need to make a living teaching yoga or you don't. And if you do need to make a living teaching yoga, unless you're going to move to the Himalayas, right? Like, if because you
Yeah.
teaching in
Yep.
New York City, you're going to have to pay your rent.
Yep.
And Sadie, actually one of my good long-term friends and clients, she wrote the foreword for the book, but we were I was featured in the New York Times about, I don't know, 13 years ago or so, and she's got a quote in the article that's like, my landlord doesn't take karma,
No.
and it's silly.
That's such a Sadie thing to
It's
say.
such a Sadie thing to say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was for real, because she got shredded too. She was my first client, and so people were like, two little devils. We were two little devils, that
Yeah.
had teamed up to ruin the yoga industry. And so it's a practicality for me, that the
Yeah.
being okay with making money is really just a practicality. Like, if you need to make a living, you're going to need to know how to run a business, and or not.
And I do think, like, to those who might be listening who are hobby yoga teachers, I love you. I'm so glad you're here supporting us, but that has to be the relationship. We need you with us. We don't need you expecting us to be with you. Like, what you're doing needs to be supporting the industry as a whole, because that, like, that rising tide lifts all ships kind of situation. We need your water to help us rise the tide. Like, if you don't want to be a full-time professional yoga teacher, that's fine if you don't have to be. But I still need you making decisions that aren't like giving our services away because you can afford to. Please and thank you.
Right, dude. And don't knock the hustle, right? Don't bring
Yeah.
us down.
Yeah.
If you've got a different financial reality that allows you, to not need to run a business
Yeah.
and make business minded decisions, to your point of, potentially the price point of an offering or different things like that, you know, um, I think it's at least worth consideration, right, of what the impact might be. Um, and I don't tell people what to do, but I think it's the consideration of what the reality is like for other folks that are in this space. It can go such a long way. Um,
So you and I met actually last year at a yoga conference, and I happened to get the opportunity to ask questions of the IYT and an organization at the time that existed, Yoga Unify. I still can't believe Allison just let me go up there and she's like, "You can say what you want." I was like, "That's a bad idea, but okay." And one of the people on that panel mentioned how she's had this very long, storied career, and I admire it. She's a great teacher, but she lived for decades on $25,000 a year. And when she said that, I felt the energy in the room just drop. Like, I could feel it on my skin. And you, in this book, wrote a 10-year plan for somebody to make 150K a year.
mhm.
I love that so much. Like, good job. Thank you. Because that's, I mean, first of all, we know the average medium household income was 70K in the mid teens, and is now, like, for an average household, we're coming closer to 100,000. That's just middle class.
Right.
That is, that is an upper middle class income is 150K a year.
Yep.
That's, I think we provide enough value to be asking that from,
I think it's asking it first of ourselves,
yeah.
right? Believing that it's possible, and it's a number that's very real. I know tons of teachers that are making six-figure incomes,
Yeah.
lots of them, lots of them, and it's sustainable. They are buying homes,
Yep.
they're going on vacations, they're sending their kids to college, right? These things that are so normal that most of us a prior generation were negotiable, right? And so what I'm really encouraging folks to believe is that not only can you make a living, right, kind of getting by,
Yeah.
which is where some folks are right now, but you can really be thriving, and that it's okay to set your number high and to build it and to build it. I mean, one of my best examples is Nicole Pacer, and she's in the book, I think in the section on your private based business. And Nicole is rocking it. She has one product,
I
six
I
figures
love that.
off of one product.
If you are a yoga therapist listening out there,
Like, it gives
that
me
is
goosebumps.
you.
It's
That is you.
huge.
Like, if you are a yoga therapist, one product, you are selling very likely one on one services. That is what we do as yoga therapists. I will tell you right now, that is why my studio is open in 2023, is my one product in 2020 and 2021.
Right.
Now, what I chose to do with that income was to keep 10 people employed during that time. But that was my choice, and part of that is the game that I am playing to see if I can build a yoga studio from a different model than what has typically been done, right? But you can, like, I live in the Midwest, and still, when you think of, like, I just took a survey from the IYT about how much you charge for an independent session for yoga therapy, and
Mm-hmm.
I was still in the top two tiers. And I live where, like, houses for $200,000 are really nice.
Yeah.
Like, really, really nice. And I'm still like, whatever a massage therapist charges, I double it.
Brilliant. I'm so proud of you. And forgive me for saying that, but I just like, because
Thanks.
everything I'm hearing, like the more, it's like, because why not, for one thing, right? Pricing is
Yes.
like such a huge thing. And most people price based on what they see other people price,
Yes.
which makes very little sense, right? Your business,
Yes.
your expenses, and your financial goals are different than the people around you. So your
Yes.
pricing should be based off of what you need to make your business run and to get yourself to the bottom line that's looking right for you, right? What you're
Yeah.
trying to sustain. But how great that you took a price. I mean, and it's working, you guys.
It is. It does. It works. And I hear in my
Bravo.
head all those people saying, oh, but yoga's already so expensive. What about the folks who can't afford our services? I'm going to again refer you to the 10 bazillion things that I've written about it, including one in Yoga Therapy Today, about how you can build Seva, you can build service directly into your business model. Ava, I'm sure you know 1,000 people who have done that. It does not mean that you charge $40 for a private or $40 for a yoga therapy
Right.
session. Like, that's not how you have to do it. You don't have to build sliding scale where the lowest tier is what everybody charges and you can barely make do.
Right.
That's so problematic on 1,000 levels.
Yes, and I think we forget to take care of ourselves first,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
yes, selfless service. Yes, right? I am all for Seva, and I will get my hands dirty, and I will be washing dishes and volunteering and sweeping the studio right along with it, like let's go. But you have to take care of yourself first.
Yes.
So many of us start overly with overgiving, with overgiving. And I think that, that's like an Achilles heel, because to your point that you said earlier, imagine what happens when people with good intentions have more resources, right? So if you'll let yourself build something sustainable, what you'll be able to give at that point is going to be exponentially more impactful than if you struggle, if you're struggling, right? And I know, right? I can hear my granny in my head right now, right? Making her donation at church, right? That it means more when you give more of less,
Yes.
right? So that's like a thing that kind of is like,
Yep.
but I really, it in the real world, you have to help yourself. If you help yourself,
Yes.
you will be able to help others. And that was a hard lesson for me, because I was a giver. I was a
Yeah.
giver. I was a giver with the business. This is super interesting, like for me now, transitioning, kind of from being the agency person and representing and managing other folks to now being the talent, if I may.
Yes, you are.
Right. And so now I'm going, oh, I'm taking care of me right now.
Yep.
I'm going, so now that's my work, right, you guys? And this is part of the evolution and the lifespan of a business. But now I'm going to take all of my good stuff and I'm going to leverage it on my own behalf.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right. So
Ooh. That just gave me goosebumps. Like, I love that for you so much.
thank you.
Like,
Thank you. Thank you for saying that because it's a big, I mean, I gave my life to my clients for 15 years. I truly, I mean, it was hysterical. Everyone's like, you work wife and your work husband and all of that. But,
yeah.
when you manage someone's business, you're literally like their spouse, and it's all about their dreams and their success. And I take joy in watching people succeed. So I'm not crying a river here. I love what I've done and what I've built and the experience that I've gained. And now I've evolved and it's just time for me to be doing my thing. So
So tell me what you do for Kripalu now.
yes. So I've been at Kripalu for, I want to say about a year and a half now. And essentially there's a new role, kind of coming out of COVID, Kripalu's mission expanded. So it was always about transformation, personal and societal transformation. And coming out of the pandemic, the leadership really wanted to make Kripalu a place that was radically accessible. And so, yeah, right.
Love
And
that.
so, because before, Kripalu was, it's not the cheapest place to go. It's kind of remote, and it had just kind of become this sort of white, affluent place for healing and transformation. And so, leadership really said, that's not good enough anymore, right? Like we talked about the playing field being different now than it was before COVID. It's the
Yes.
same kind of ripple effect of what happened in our country. This is a place that belongs to everybody. So what do we need to do from an equity lens? What do we need to do from a regenerative community lens to really make a space where BIPOC, LGBTQ, needs-based individuals, first responders, activists, artists, how do we get those folks in the building? How do we
Yeah.
get these folks online? And how do we create an environment where it's welcome, truly welcome? So
Yeah.
that's what I do. So I work in what's called regenerative community. So I'm doing a lot of event sort of programming and creating literally like building community, right? So if you go back to that story I was telling you about the yoga journal 15 years ago, right? Where
Yes.
like I got like this hard no, okay,
Oh,
about essentially inclusion, right? Why can't there be a woman of color on the cover? To now being in a place where the largest yoga retreat center, in the country, that this is the mission. So I feel really blessed. I needed a job. Let's keep it 100.
yeah.
Like I said, COVID destroyed, like we lost two, can't even, still can barely talk about it, but it was we lost a lot of money. We lost a lot of money. And I needed to get a job after being an entrepreneur for 15 years. So I feel very grateful that I landed in a place, one that has a mission that's always been my mission. Yama's tagline has been, we're a catalyst for better living, bringing the tools of wellness to communities of all kinds. That's been my tagline since 2010. And now I'm doing that in a place where I'm resourced. And that's amazing, right? And that for me was also me saying yes to myself,
Yeah.
saying, okay, you gave it everything that you had. You probably gave it too much, right? You could not outthink the pandemic.
No.
Okay. I was talking to Leslie Kaminoff a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, Ava, you would have had to be, I was like, I had plan A, plan C, plan B, plan D. And he was like, you would have needed plan Z
Yes.
to get, to not have what happened happen. Right. But this is what we do as entrepreneurs, right? Go, oh,
Yeah.
beat myself up that
Yes.
I couldn't make it, right? That this element, this one piece of the business couldn't survive. So we've honored it. That part is wrapped up. I got a job. And now we're going to decide what pieces of that we're gonna pick up, which most likely will be in the education space. I think you're
Yeah.
right, Rebecca. Like I'm really going to lean into the teacher trainings, and um, I want to bring the tools to as many teachers as possible, to help everybody reimagine and get back on their feet. But that's what I do at Kripalu. It's an amazing time there right now. We're just like fully in it. And it's exciting, and it's allowing me to bring all my contacts, all my people, all my experience, and that's also why I feel really blessed. Like I had to get a job, so I could have ended up um somewhere maybe where I couldn't truly like fold in all of my life's work up until now.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that too.
So I also just got chills a little bit because one of the things that I know when I opened my studio in 2019, 6 months before the pandemic, I opened my studio, and my goal was to be radically inclusive and accessible as well. It's to me part of this new sort of shift that I wanted to see happen. And one of the things I'm going to say thank you, COVID, for is that it has now created a platform to make that so much easier for those of us who are in that mindset.
Yeah.
I don't have to justify selling wellness and self care over fitness anymore. Like, nobody questions that. It used to be we were a fitness industry until March 2020. We are no longer an exclusively fitness industry. Thank you, COVID. There are blessings.
That's right.
But I love that Kripalu is shifting there too. And one of the things that I learned is that you sort of build this like small start, and then all of a sudden one day you look around 2, 3, 4 years later and you're like, oh, it's here. Oh, every organizer in my town is a member of my studio. Oh, like every healthcare worker from every possible healthcare area here is a member of my studio. And it just came. And for so long, I was like, oh, I really did just build this thing. And I'm excited for you to build that for Kripalu because you're right. They are our landmark organization within the industry. They are where you go to retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be so cool. Like, like I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's already happening. Of course, we want it faster,
Yeah.
everything we wish it was 5 years ago, and it's happening. As I said earlier, I went the first time in 2009 when I had the idea to start Yama, and I was the only person that looked like me in this space. And now there's women in leadership that are people of color.
Yes.
We just did a global majority yoga teacher training for the first time, led by and for BIPOC. I mean, just like, we have this insane scholarship goal, to be delivering 5,000 scholarships next year, where folks can come for free, y'all, okay, to campus for different programs or just to rest.
Yeah.
Just to rest, right? Just to rest. So yeah, it's incredible. It's just, it's time. It's time.
It is.
It's really, really time. And like you said, let's run.
Let's run. Yeah. I'm
Okay, so
already
I
like,
ask you a question.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So I know you've been peeling through the book. So I would like to know, because you're a savvy, seasoned business owner. So I would love a couple of like your highlights of things where you were like, okay, like
Okay.
some ahas for you, or just like where you really found some tools.
So one of the things that I already referenced, because I love a spreadsheet, and like I can't emphasize enough like the downloadable spreadsheets, because I think a lot of times people want to be better at like the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of the business and have no clue where to start. Like, you can look at a blank Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet all day long, and if you have no idea what's supposed to be on there, that's not helpful, right? Like, you're just going, well, how much money is in my bank account? It's like that plus feelings
Right.
is how people sort of like judge what their business is. And I know studio owners that is how they're judging their studio, is like, can I pay my bills this week plus feelings is how my studio is doing for the week. And I'm like, oh, but your feelings are liars. And I love that you had this in your book, all of the spreadsheets. And the other part that I thought was so smart and so savvy, the entire chapter on online virtual offerings, which I think I also talked about. But I'll be honest with you, even people, except somebody who, like Sadie, who operates entirely online, or like talking to Brett Larkin or folks like that who are all totally online, if you're not talking to those people, online sounds like something you do only if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of it being like a very viable income stream for
Mm-hmm.
your business.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know how to use Zoom now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we all knew March 16th, 2020, how to get in a Zoom meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was so impressed that holds weight in this book with one-on-ones and trainings and workshops. Like, it used to be, I felt, when I was an independent contractor yoga teacher in my area and I was teaching 18 classes a week, I felt like the only way I could make it, quote unquote make it, was if I ran a teacher training program.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the pinnacle.
Right.
And you haven't built something that's just like get enough experience to train. You've built like an ecosystem.
Right.
And that is how I think we make our money
Mm-hmm.
in a practical and sustainable way.
Yes.
Like, and so that to me is like, I'm like, this is such impressive advice, right? Like, so many people niche down to be like, I am the person who trains, or I am the person who only does workshops, or I'm the person who will teach you how to do one-on-ones. And then yoga teachers are out there taking all these like $500 trainings, like, here
Mm-hmm.
for a weekend for $500, I'll teach you how to make a business with one-on-ones. And then you go, okay, great. And then you're going to do another one for, how I'm going to make a business with workshops.
Mm-hmm.
It's all here,
Mm-hmm.
Ava. Like, it's all here
Well,
in
because
this
we,
book.
yeah, that you're talking about the goods and services, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And it's so true because if you don't understand what's possible, right, and give yourself a chance, then you are going to be quite narrow. Now,
yeah,
Nicole, like the example that I gave of the 6-figure income with one service product, she did not skip understanding what was possible. That was a decision.
yeah.
That was a data informed decision, right? Not just saying, oh, well, not tunnel vision, right? That was her choosing after researching and understanding what was possible and trying things and finding out what she liked and didn't like, and her saying, this is how I want to spend my time. This is how I'm going to build my business. And most of us just kind of start off doing things, right? Without taking the time to think about what's possible, to think about what you really want, and then to choose. Because I'm a big fan of not doing all of it. Make your choices wisely, right? Because it's your actual time and energy.
Yeah.
But then really choosing where you want to invest, right? Where and how you want to build. So yeah, all the building blocks are there, ways to get to know them, ways to improve them. I can't remember how exactly I break it down, but I think it's start, maintain, and maximize, right, in each of the goods and services. So if you're already doing privates, how to maintain and how to take it to the next level, right? And we go through that with each of the service models. So if you're not doing them yet, teaches you how to start. And if you're already doing them, it teaches you how to make sure you can maintain. And then if you're really committed to that service model, it teaches you how to expand and
And
take
you
it.
don't skip on the marketing either. Like, again, marketing is oftentimes like people are like, it's a social media account and vibes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for like anybody who loves like the vibes out there, but if you think like people come into my studio all the time and they'll say this one phrase to me, this happens probably twice a month. Somebody will come in and say, oh, I just felt called to your business. Like, I saw you online a couple times and somebody else said something about your business. And then I drove past your studio and I just felt called to be in this space. It was like the universe was telling me to be here. And my ears were like, thank you, marketing, because my marketing made you feel like the universe was calling you.
That's right. And you're counting touch points. You're like one,
Yeah.
two,
Yep.
three, right? Because usually
Yep.
it's seven,
Yep.
right? To get somebody to get out of their car and walk in,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, absolutely. Oh, and then I was going to also say, with the downloadable spreadsheets, like these are real tools that we actually run the business with, and that we ran, 50 clients businesses with. So everything's been road tested, and it's you know which was it was a gift for me to get it all distilled this way, and to really be able to share it. But like, these are the things, we're running, a 50-person retreat in a foreign country. Like, this is the tool we're using to understand it, and to be able to get the pricing right, and to be able to make it a success. So they're not just spreadsheets. They're not just spreadsheets um that I made up, in the sense of like,
Yeah.
we don't know that they work. Like, they work. They're real. They're real business tools. So yeah.
There is this phrase I think we all know in business of this under promise, over deliver kind of mentality. That's what we're all going for, is that we're going to kind of tell you what we're doing, but then when you get it, you're like, holy smokes, you've really gone above and beyond, right? That's something I've taken into my business. And like this book, I was like, damn, like, like really, the retreat thing alone, when you're talking about a retreat spreadsheet, the amount of times we're so intimidated to run a retreat or run something where you're taking people abroad, or even just, maybe you're going to go somewhere where the fall leaves look pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see so many teachers invest that $100, $200, $500 in a 2-hour, mastermind class on how to do that. And you don't even come out with a spreadsheet out of that. Mm-hmm. I was just like, this is all of that here in like just a chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is. And it's funny too, because, the writing process, when it got, like designed, right, and you sort of take the pages and like put them down, it can be a huge topic. Like, I'm looking at this retreat thing, because it's such a huge issue, yes, in our space, right? Everyone makes this mistake. I don't know any yoga business owner that has not made a huge financial mistake running an event because they didn't have a tool like this. Right? Everyone. Yeah, I know you did. I don't even need to ask. I'm sure of it.
I have.
So, and then somehow we get it into like 3 pages, but it's enormous. So thank you for paying such attention to it and bringing these things out, and sharing the good news, and sharing the good work, because it's just useful, you guys. I mean, this is what I say, like, you don't have to learn everything the hard way. Right? Like, I've already made the mistakes. Like, the clients have made the mistakes. We've learned things the hard way, and I'm trying to help you not have to learn so many things the hard way, because that's entrepreneurship, right?
Yes.
That's entrepreneurship, but help yourself out. Help yourself out.
Tell everybody where to find you and your book.
Yes, thank you. So your yoga business is at humankinetics.com. That's the publisher. Or on Amazon. If you grab a copy and you want to leave a review, please feel free. Rebecca's going to say something very sassy.
I am.
On Amazon. So you can grab a copy there. And I am Ava Taylor on Instagram, or yamatalent.com online, and also at Yama Talent. And there's some fun stuff coming. I'm going to be doing some sort of practice your business monthly coaching, and just really, kind of making sure that folks really know how to use the book properly and can see what's there, and kind of teaching from it. So yeah, please keep in touch. I'm here, Rebecca. I
love you so much.
I know I am so like, I just want to put my forehead on your forehead right now. Hats off to you for how you run your business and how you support the community with these tools and with having these real conversations. It really matters.
Thank you.
I'm excited for us. I'm hopeful. I am very, very hopeful at what's coming. I'm very glad to be closing my, COVID chapter to a certain extent. And now that she's here, like, it was a big thing to just kind of birth her. So now that she's here, I'm really excited to set my own goalpost. And so I will see you out there.
Thank you so much, Ava, for joining me. I loved our conversation so much. Here are our key takeaways. First, our brain tells us garbage about our businesses sometimes. Running numbers and making spreadsheets, or downloading them from an online resource, is a great way to manage your emotions and understand how to achieve your goals as a professional. Next, no one skips the groundwork for being a yoga professional. There's truly some wisdom in understanding that having a room of only a few people, having a workshop or retreat that doesn't go forward, and putting lots of work into a very small outcome is really normal. Nobody skips this stage. Next, now is the time to build the business of your dreams. If you have a plan in place, then run. Don't walk toward your goals. There is a lot of opportunity for us within the industry right now. The landscape of yoga has changed so dramatically from COVID, and it is important that we acknowledge and grieve, but also plan. If not us, there is no doubt that chains will move to take up the slack that we are not taking. So, in your community, there are opportunities to capitalize based on the loss the yoga industry has experienced from COVID. And if not you, then who? Can you identify some of those opportunities? Can you create collaborations and build something new in your area? These are conversations worth having, especially now at the end of 2023 as we plan for the new year. Next, radical wealth redistribution. That is the name of my game and the game of many of us who are looking to take the money from the few and redistribute it to the many. As I have said 1,000 times on this podcast, nothing bad happens when good people have more money, and we have an industry chock full of good people. And if you don't believe me, you need to go looking for good people who are doing good with their money right now. I promise you, it is just a short internet search away. Next, conflating your fear of growth and change with yoga philosophy is a huge challenge that we have as an industry, and I used to do this too. Your fear of failure, your fear of success, of trying something that might not work out, that can be hidden by yoga philosophy. So be careful to make sure that you know your own core values as a person, you know your values as a yoga practitioner, as a human being, and then identify when fear is getting in your way versus when something doesn't line up with your values. They will feel different. Honestly, this is, I think, one of the best things that you can do for your heart, for your nervous system, and your bottom line. Next, if you don't need to hustle, don't hustle unless you want to. But please don't knock those of us who do need to hustle to make a living at this job. We need your help to lift us all up. And finally, please, please, please don't price based on what other people price. You need to gauge your own expenses and financial goals and then price based on that, not what other people charge. Thank you so much for listening, my friends. Next week, I have the absolute pleasure to talk to my new friend Val, who is the founder of the original Hot Yoga Association. A lot of us think we can't build organizations within this industry because the Yoga Alliance holds all the power. Well, I'm here to say no. Val did just that, and she is going to share her story with you. I know you're going to love it. I am so grateful you are here. Thank you for listening, my friends, and I will see you on our next break time, gathered around the water cooler.